Well, to discuss this further, we're being joined by the editor of the Executive Intelligence Review from Washington, Edward Spannaus. Mr. Spannaus, many thanks for joining us here on Press TV. Now, at this stage, the chorus of a double-dip recession worries is growing. I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Well, we never got out of the first recession, but it's much worse than a recession. In fact, it's even worse than a depression. We're in a global breakdown crisis, and the White House has told us, well, we've been in a recovery from the first recession for the past 2 years, which is a complete lie. There is no recovery. There are fewer people working today than there were 2 years ago when the recovery first began. And under this president, there will be no recovery until he's out, and we take steps to deal with the Wall Street gambling casino, the speculation, which is what is really killing our economy.
Well, speaking of which, now statistics that brought the markets down recently are that of unemployment, inflation, home sales, etc. Should the U.S. government tax the rich to recover, considering it is the middle and low classes' dismal numbers that affect the entire economy?
Well, that's not sufficient. It certainly wouldn't hurt, and there has been taxes on the wealthy are at a low, all-time low for the past 40, 50 years. And the disparity of wealth in the United States is much bigger than anybody believes or most people know. And it's gotten much worse. And even since the 2007-2008 collapse, the biggest banks have gotten bigger because of the bailouts. They're 20% bigger than they were. So I'm more concerned not about wealthy individuals, but about shutting down the big speculator banks. And the way to do that is by restoring Franklin Roosevelt's law, the Glass-Steagall law, which would shut down the gambling casino, wipe out the phony debts, and that would enable us to get around to rebuilding our economy once again.
Well, considering the direction all this is headed in, would the smart investor at this point believe that things are going to get worse before they get better, but the U.S. can still ride it out?
Well, I question even the use of the term investor these days, because an investor is someone who invests for the long term, and what you see today in these markets is very short-term speculation. They're right to be pessimistic, but they're part of the cause. These speculators are a big part of the cause for the collapse and the reason that there is no recovery. As long as these banks are sitting on huge piles of money from the bailout, from the Federal Reserve giving them free money, and they're just speculating with this, they're not investing, they're not lending to businesses, they're not doing anything to create jobs. So the only way out of this, the only way, is to restore Glass-Steagall, reestablish the firewall between the commercial banks and the speculators, wipe out the speculators, they're on their own, and then we could get around to a recovery. Otherwise, there will be no recovery.